It's a lot cooler and it's a little breezier. But this is a representative session, which means this is super useful for the teams and drivers. So are we going to see cars out on track straight away?
We absolutely are. I mean, Julian Palmer and Alex Jakes are going to have to get that new graphic made saying this is a representative session. That gentle sea breeze, we can feel it up here. I think in some sections of the track, it may have a bit of an influence on some of the drivers who might just get caught out by the odd gust of wind. I don't think it's going to be a massive problem. It's not quite stiff enough. The big factor, though, it's an awful lot cooler now. It's a really pleasant temperature to stand and talk to you here. But that's going to have a big effect on the tyres. The tyre performance is going to be so much closer to what it will be in qualifying. And that's why you're going to see that big rush of cars and you're going to see those shiny red soft tyres going on for some qualifying simulation runs.
Yeah, lots of data to acquire over the next 60 minutes. You talk about the simulation runs and quali laps. What will be the run plans? How do they start off this session? Are they heavier to start with, then they lose a bit of fuel?
I think you'll see a few teams going out quite early and doing qualifying simulation runs. So that will be an out lap, a flying lap, and an in lap. It's quite a long circuit here with an uncertain number of corners. I don't like the official number because some of the corners aren't corners, but a little bit more kinks or undulations, if you like, on the circuit map. But actually, I think what you are going to see is some teams are going to try 2 qualifying simulation runs, or you may see an extended qualifying simulation run where they take out a set of used tyres, used softs, go and do an out lap, a flying lap, a cool down lap that's quite slow, and then another flying lap and then an in lap. And it's those cool down laps that are quite slow where you're going to see the drama unfold, because when, say, a Ferrari might be doing a cool down lap that's a little bit slow, there might be someone a little bit further down the track who's coming up very quickly behind them and then putting in a fast lap, and then they start impeding each other, and that's where things start to get a little bit lively. You're not going to see penalties for impeding in this session. It's not a competitive session, but it is very much a practice session, not just for the drivers, but for the teams on the pit walls and back at base who will be communicating with those drivers over the other cars coming up behind them. And I just picked Ferrari as an example. It doesn't mean that they've got a particular issue with this. It's just they did have a particular issue.
They had a moment in FP1, didn't they? When you talk about those cool down laps and then going again for a push lap, is that what we're going to see in qualifying tomorrow as well? Is that how they're going to choreograph it, do you reckon?
I think you'll see a bit of that in qualifying 1, the first section of qualifying. I don't think you'll see it in Q2 and Q3. Quite a long lap, as I say. Getting the heat into the tyre and getting the tyre at the right temperature at the start of lap and keeping that all the way through the lap, that's what that's all about. There will be experimentation to see if you can take a set of used tyres through to get another run in, and that's crucial for the front runners to make sure they don't burn up a set of tyres early on. You may see some teams trying the medium tyre to go through. It is cool, but if they can generate enough tyre temperature, could they carry that all the way through Q1? Red Bull might try that because they've got a bit of a time advantage. I think the rest, it's a bit of a brave move.
Well, as a reminder, it was Red Bull that led the way in FP1. Max Verstappen ahead of his teammate Checo Perez, and then it was Fernando Alonso in P3. So exactly the finishing order we had in Bahrain at the end of the race. I wonder whether the order will change as we head into FP2 and throughout the weekend. Let's bring Alex Brundle in now for an update as we head towards FP2.
Well, getting real is the action on track, and getting real are the track changes as well, which we can now see from the fantastic driver's eye view cameras. I've beamed into, I know you don't like the corner name, Sam, we've beamed into the corner commonly known as turn 10 for the first look at the first track change. This beveled, slopey curb has been changed from this one. On the left-hand side, by the way, you can see Charles Leclerc from last year's Grand Prix. On the right-hand side, Lewis Hamilton from FP1. Bit of a change to try to prevent cars spinning left into the wall in turn 11. Just in case they do spin into the wall in turn 11, you can see a little bit of Tech Pro barrier has been added here. You can just catch the end of it behind the branding there. So that's the first major safety change of the lap. And it's all mostly through this middle sector as we go to the 180 big banked turning point down towards turn 13 and then get out to turn 14. And these are where the visibility changes really take effect. You can see here on the apex of turn 14, if you're Lewis Hamilton in this year's FP1, you can see right down the road here. If you're Charles Leclerc in last year's Grand Prix, you really can't. And as we progress on through turn 14, you can even then see the apex of turn 15 if you're Lewis Hamilton, whereas last year that apex just wasn't available to you. more things then done as we round the apex of turn 16 through 17 and head off down towards what is the final safety change of the lap. Down on the left-hand side here in turn 20, very similar thing, really. If you're Lewis Hamilton, you are probably able to see this car, for example, and equally, this car and its mirrors is going to be able to see you. Whereas if you're Charles Leclerc, the road very much closed for you. Big safety change, just in case there's an incident, a car spun, or even a little bit of traffic down in this area. And then the big talking point in terms of performance, that tightening of turn 22. And when you look at this, you can really see how much the barrier is jutting out at the drivers in comparison to last year's turn 22. Much, much tighter, much, much more challenging. We've seen a lot of drivers with some escapades over the runoff in FP1, guys.
Very much, Alex. Yes, escapades off track, escapades bringing some drivers together. One of those was Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri with Lewis Hamilton coming quite close. And I'm just thinking of teams that might make a step on in FP2. In years gone by, AlphaTauri have been a team that don't really like the heat. When it gets a bit cooler, they kind of come into their own. But Franz Tost, we were listening to him in the team principals press conference a little earlier on, very damning of where the car's at the moment. Are there going to be teams that take a step on in this evening session, Sam?
Yeah, but AlphaTauri.
Not AlphaTauri.
It's not going to be one of them, unfortunately. AlphaTauri, unfortunately, is really disappointing. They've got a really powerful lump in the back of that car. The Honda power unit is really good. Honda and Ferrari, and Red Bull seem to suggest that Ferrari is slightly better, but owned by a small amount. The cars I think we're going to see take a step on. Williams, they're looking really, really good. Aston Martin may be challenged by the team I just mentioned because Ferrari were utterly woeful in free practice 1. I don't know if it was their run plan or what, but they were slow. Now, I think with these conditions, far more representative, we could see Ferrari back to where they should be. If Ferrari are not in front of Aston Martin at the end of this session, I'm not going to say in front of Red Bull because I think that's a bit of an ask. They are in serious trouble this season because this is a time that Ferrari are going to need to do something drastic to catch up to the front because right now where they're sitting is not looking good.
Well, just a reminder, of course, they took 2 power units on both sides of the garage, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc taking new PUs. And a reminder, they finished up P7 with Carlos Sainz and P11 for Charles Leclerc. Sam, lots to look out for in the next 60 minutes. FP2 is going to be a thriller. Representative conditions. You are heading to the pit lane. We're going to be talked through the session by Alex Jakes and former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer. And then after FP2, stick around on F1 TV because Sam Collins and Alex Brundle will be able to give you all of their expert analysis on what we've seen. A reminder, FP1, it was Red Bull's advantage. Max Verstappen ahead of Checo Perez and Fernando Alonso. Will it be that way after the next minute? Join us on F1 TV commentary. Goodbye.
Let's get ready, boys. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right. Let's start the commentary. Gonna listen in, and from time to time, I'll pop in. Give yourselves some of my appreciation. This should be cool, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Help me get to 1,000 followers today. Let's see if we can do it. We're 100 away. Come on, guys. Here we go.
Good evening and welcome back to the Jeddah Corniche circuit for the second hour of practice at round 2 of the 2023 Formula One season. We are ready to go, not quite racing, but laps at the limit around this circuit that is always a challenge due to its rapid nature and the fact that it is under the floodlights. We're going to get some representative running. We're going to understand who was quick in Bahrain, who is quick in Jeddah at round 2 of the longest ever Formula One season. This is a really tricky circuit for the drivers to master. 6.1 kilometers, 3.8 miles. The lap record set by Lewis Hamilton at the bottom of your picture. 27 turns for the drivers to get to grips with, and a real circuit that the driver can make the difference with as well. It's always fascinating to see where the risk is. Charlotte Leclerc's had a couple of crashes here. 2 FP2s that we've had here across the 2 Grand Prix help in Saudi Arabia. C4, C3 and C2 tyres available. That's a step softer than we had the opening Grand Prix of the year. These are live pictures, spectacular live pictures of the illuminated circuits. And in the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes, joined once again by former Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer. And it's a slightly moody lighting in the comment box tonight as we look at live pictures on the left-hand side. Some answers to come our way here in the next hour after a session that you can take with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. Not really representative conditions for FP1 or FP3 at this circuit. So it's about setting the lap time in this practice session now. The next hour of FP2, which is a little bit like Bahrain, is the representative one for qualifying on Saturday and the race on Sunday. And I got many a question. I don't know about you.
Go on.
Well, who can challenge Red Bull?
Wow, that is the big one of the year.
They looked so good in Bahrain. They looked really good in the unrepresentative FP1. Up the road, a second clear of anyone that wasn't Fernando Alonso. So can anyone turn up the wick and get close to Red Bull? Qualifying looked like it could be a vulnerability for them after they only just edged out a front row lockout last time out. Looking at Ferrari, didn't show a lot in FP1. Is this going to be the time where they can unleash a little bit more pace?
So Ferrari, I think, given their expectations at the start of the weekend, that is going to be such an important thing to see when we are in the conditions. And if you're one of our newer Formula One fans, it's great to have your company for this running on Friday evening in Jeddah. It's coming up to 2 minutes to 8 o'clock local time. The track temperature, 31 degrees. The air temperature is 26 degrees. So the drivers now in the operating window that they will be for the Grand Prix on Sunday. It was Max Verstappen ahead of Sergio Perez earlier on. And Fernando Alonso finding himself third ahead of his teammate, Lance Stroll. Lewis Hamilton in sixth. George Russell ahead of him in fifth. And Sainz, Gasly.
So we'll do a start, Fernando. We'll do a start. There's 1 minute to go.
Picture of the pecking order. There are some key differences from Bahrain to the Jeddah Corniche circuit. The walls are close, the asphalt is a lot smoother, but the front runner remains the same. We have Max Verstappen at the head of the field. 6 laps he led last year, fewest of any of his 15 Grand Prix wins.
Quite a straightforward FP1 session, wasn't it? A few drivers. It was turn 22, the left-hander, that was causing the most concern for the drivers. So quite a few of them bouncing through the runoff area there. Lance Stroll got the closest to the wall and managed to still save his way through up towards turn 33 and 23 and 24. Slightly tighter there. The raised curb on the exit was causing some sparks flying underneath the cars, but overall it was fairly clean. Few drivers that were getting caught up behind traffic. I'm sure we're going to see a little bit more of that as well in this session, particularly when they put the red wall soft tyres on and go for a qualifying simulation run. Difficult to negotiate the traffic around this circuit with so many blind meanders at full tilt. You don't get a lot of eye line ahead or behind. A few track changes, as Alex Brundle was going through, will help that for this year. Still didn't seem to be enough in FP1 with some drivers complaining over the radio, and rightfully so.
So green light at the end of the pit lane, and the hard work, the important work.
Okay, Lance, GPS is poor again for us.
It's going to be interesting to see who takes a step forward, or whether we do have the same picture as we had in FP1, championship that Red Bull got off to the best possible start with their 1-2. They were 1 and 2 as well earlier on, running around here. A lot of talk that the different configuration of circuit was going to make it a much closer picture. Lewis Hamilton in the press conference yesterday saying in race trip, we're a second and a half a lap off what Red Bull can do.
the action as well. Busy track out there. We're going to get a run from everyone on either a medium or a hard tyre. Predominantly, it's the medium, but it's a fairly good split between the two. And then we're going to go with some soft tyres and some quali runs.
That is the picture that the drivers are dealing with. They're in conditions that are not reminiscent of this morning, but are reminiscent of the Grand Prix that they will have on Sunday. It's always at the same time. Checking the mirrors, car placement so important. Qualifying.
Confirm that the wind is half the strength of everyone. The tyres will give out against the low target. Chances when you got 2 ahead right there. That.
Same for the drivers. Isaac down here with the fair, a little look around, a big old look around and points in his mirrors as a McLaren flashes through. And now looks like, and that just shows also how difficult it is for drivers to get out of the way of others. And Leclerc was obviously informed over the radio. You could just see his eyes dart straight to the mirrors. And then a few seconds later, you see the McLaren emerge into view and flash past in an instant. Bottas having a lock up at turn 1 and cutting straight through it. Hard tyres on the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, the Alfa Romeo put to good use with Valtteri Bottas in Bahrain, and he had to run a very conservative strategy of tyre management that took him to 8th place, best finish in the last 14 Grand Prix. Lock up for Lewis Hamilton into turn 1, and he goes over the run.
Gap Lewis to Alonso.
He's got 3 seconds ahead of Alonso.
Got to try and manage your tyre temps to make sure that you can last the whole lap, particularly on the ways on the mediums now and the softs later. You don't want to start with tyre temps too high. This, unlike Bahrain, this circuit puts a lot of energy through the front axle, and Lewis there looked like he just didn't have the front tyre temp to start the lap. Same as Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. They both straight across the first chicane. Hamilton was also struggling in FP1 with brakes. We saw him numerous times go straight on at turn 1 or 4. He's had to abort this first lap here.
So frustration for what looked like both Mercedes down at the first turn. The 2 real key overtaking opportunities, turn 1 and turn 27, as Yuki Tsunoda negotiates. Oh, and clobbers the inside wall. Negotiating turn 22, car 22, lucky to still have the wheels attached.
Wow. He hit the inside wall. I mean,
so early as well.
You've got to get close to the wall, open up the corner as much as possible, but counting that inside wall, he's a lucky boy that he's not ended up just pitching himself into the barrier on the outside. Verstappen was pretty close to the wall, exited the final corner, launching it for a flying lap. He's just setting himself up to go here for a first push, is Max. Yeah, Tsunoda so lucky there not to have damage on the left front, or just to be pitched off wide and into the barriers on the outside.
Yeah, Tsunoda had a torrid time here last year. He wasn't able to set the lap in qualifying. He had a failure that kept him out from the Grand Prix, and he very nearly lost the crucial hour of practice that sets him up for the qualifying session tomorrow night. The Red Bull looks on rails as Max Verstappen takes it through the opening sector.
Fastest first sector so far. Just one flyer on the board for everyone. It's Carlos Sainz at the top of the times, 3/10 clear of Alonso on the same tyre. So that's already a better start for the Ferrari than we saw.
So how's the balance? Looked like last corner was compromised a bit there.
Yeah. But let me do another lap. It feels okay, feels better at the moment.
Okay, that's good.
Where he's been so close, he's really confident in placing the Red Bull.
Wow, back to the future stuff for Max Verstappen as he was heading into turn 22. An enormous amount of sparks out of the car. Amazing stuff. You can see how low they're able to run that Red Bull. We're talking about their operating window. And he goes past Yuki Tsunoda into the braking zone of 27. Kicked it out a little bit. That is a committed lap if you consider this is his first flyer in FP2 across the line, and the benchmark time just under 0.3 of a second ahead of the Ferraris as he immediately peels out of the way of the junior team owned by Red Bull. And now we check in with first of all Lance Stroll heading to the same corner.
Second flyer then for Stroll and Alonso, both on second flyers on their sector mediums. Verstappen's not up the road. He's quickest, but he's not miles away. And there we go, Stroll getting within 0.2 then in the Aston Martin. And his teammate Fernando Alonso is going quicker behind as well. Coming out of the final corner now, running to the line. Alonso goes to the top of the times. Second flyer for both of those two on the mediums. We saw the tyres are hanging on okay, even in the heat of FP1. So now the temperature's dropping. They're on the mediums. Nearly a couple of flyers in there.
Okay, Alonso, Verstappen, Stroll, Sainz, Leclerc, the top 5. Here's the fastest time set at the moment.
Okay, Nick, we're still trying to find some good data to look at Sector 2. Sector 1 was strong.
Just the raised exit curb, difficult to stay foot to the floor as you're doing it. You can lose a little bit of drive up to the final corner. Didn't seem to affect Fernando too much there, though.
That was that late move from Hülkenberg off the racing line. So many parts of this racetrack taking a step back in the commentary box because it is rapid stuff. And you've got to be on the same wavelength as everyone else. Hülkenberg clearing the path of the Williams, the top.
So red button is available for double handbrake.
A little bit of vibration that we've certainly seen with the Red Bull team in recent years. Albon about to finish his flying lap with a distant tow from the Alpine ahead. Albon up to 8th place.
Williams looked good earlier on, and they look decent so far in this session as well. Second flying lap of the session for Alex Albon, showing a turn of pace. Flow-Vis paint on the back of the Williams as well, so they're checking out the airflow over the rear wing. There's vibrations going through it, but working nicely so far. It's a low drag rear wing as well. Williams are quick on the speed traps, and it's helping them to a handy lap time at the moment.
Sergio Perez on pole position here last year, the driver that had to wait the longest of any driver to take a pole position in Formula One history. 215 attempts before he started at the head of the field. A lap where he delivered and beat his teammate in the 2 Ferraris last year in the pole position. Runs tight to the wall through turn 14, and then it's fast sweepers to take you through this middle part of the lap. He's heading back for home. Turn 13 a hairpin, turn 27 a hairpin. Runs alongside the Corniche. This is the key corner of the racetrack that's providing us with the drama so far today. Turn 22, and then it's DRS, one of 3 zones for the racetrack for the driver who's setting a personal best sector 1, sector 2. But he did miss the apex of turn 2, so maybe having to regather himself and go again. Nice tow from the Ferrari ahead of Carlos Sainz. Car across the line for Perez. He's the fastest car in the session so far, just shy of 0.2 ahead of Fernando Alonso.
Beauty of a slipstream there for Perez. Helped himself to the fastest speed trap of everyone across the line. Found a good chunk of time there compared to Alonso as well. Didn't really have any punishment for it. Normally you have to follow through a couple of corners to get a slipstream that good, but he just managed to pick it up excellently in the final corner and drive to the line. His place at the top might be short-lived though. Here comes Max, sweeping through 2 sectors now. He's got to find a braking point for the final left-hander.
This is one of the smoothest circuits of the year. Max Verstappen lighting it up like it's bonfire night out there. It's unbelievably low that they're running that Red Bull, and huge amount of sparks as a result, but it's working for the world champion as he comes across the line, and he's 0.3 faster than his teammate. He's half a second faster than the fifth.
Everyone there has done 2 flying laps now. Everyone in the entire field. So that's a pretty representative order. Of course, the drivers further down outside of the top 10 are on the hards. The rest on the mediums. Mercedes a long way adrift at this point on the mediums. Russell is about to improve, and we'll see what he can do to get the Mercedes in. Replay of Verstappen pressing the button on his wheel and opening the DRS flap. He gets so close to the wall with that right rear, where he clouted it those 2 years ago.
They did push it back from that year, so it used to be the thinnest part of the circuit. They have pushed that wall back for 2022. They pushed the walls further back at other parts of it.
Most people on mediums at the moment for input.
Copy, I got a bit of time to come.
Turn 2, but they managed to get through it. We're focusing on 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton's push lap now, as Ocon goes up to 4th. How close can Hamilton get to being a part of the weekend? And we asked the question about Ferrari earlier on. They are 0.8 of a second away. Same comparable runs, comparable pace, and they've now got Alex Albon up to 5th. With driver's eye view with Hamilton.
Picking his way through the end of sector 2, sorry. Those slightly better eye lines up towards turn 22. The left-hander that's been catching many drivers out. Lewis very clean with his line through there. Not taking much curve at all on the exit. And again, the sight line improved. Actually, it was improved last year for the braking zone for this final corner now. Fixes braking spot about 80 meters into the corner. Looks fairly sedate at the wheel for Hamilton. He's not fighting the car too much. It's a high speed. I'm sure he doesn't feel it from the cockpit, but he's not being overworked here in the Mercedes. He's not particularly quick though, just nudges within a second of the pace.
The first retirement of the season last week in Bahrain was Oscar Piastri, and he's not going to complete that lap. He's going to peel in to the pits and abandon that one. Sainz going again, see how close he can get. Gasly trying to get on terms with his team. Esteban Ocon denied a podium in the final meters of the Grand Prix here in the inaugural running of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. It was in a drag race along with Valtteri Bottas. Bottas just pipped him. Alpine to get to Mercedes that day. Here's Gasly to displace his teammate. This thrilling narrative between childhood friends who fell out, now find themselves as teammates once again, separated by all of 0.03 of a second.
Tell me, Yuki, when you want.
Still, I feel massively like front this lead, like front less grip, just pushing out with really strange.
Understood, Yuki. Do you want one more push on this tire?
Yeah.
Copy, let's do one more.
Completely covered in that flow visualization dive. You see teams trying that, and Williams running their 2 cars in slightly different configurations as we saw. There you can see that bright red flow.
Can we check upshifts and can we discuss that one oversteer?
Saw the rear wing, the DRS flap, fluttering away at high speed on this car when Albon was using that system. So already, look, you can see the engineers and mechanics taking a look at that DRS mechanism to try and work out where that's gone a little bit wrong, because that fluttering that you saw on camera is not something that's desirable. We've seen Red Bull suffer with that both last year and the year before, and now you can see
his targets are wrong.
Looking at the rear, not really happy with what he's seeing at the back of the car. And you can see, look, they've got the camera out. One of the engineers in the white shirt behind the car has got his camera out and is taking pictures. Now, those pictures are not for the damage that we think suffered to the DRS actuator. Those pictures are to picture what the flow visualization die is doing. They'll email those pictures back to the base at Grove in England, in Wantage, and then the aerodynamicists will look at the airflow around it. But the mechanic there...
Wait, it's just my headrest. I'm laying down too much. I cannot feel the car.
Conversation about that, about what's going on at the rear. It's a DRS actuator, and there's no visual damage, but they know something's not right. So Albon's going to be in the pit for a little while here, guys, while they fix it. And I'll come back to you if there's anything particularly new. But they are going to have to make changes to the back of those cars. That's you guys.
Thank you, Sam. We saw that trackside, and we got talked through it in the pit lane by Sam Collins.
It's, I mean, reliability aside, it's the best Friday that Williams have had for a while, I'd say, with Albon, the sixth place. Pretty genuine pace as well on the mediums. Most drivers have been on that tyre, just a few further back, but I don't know if they'd be in the top 6 if they put on the mediums. Not necessarily, anyway. They're not. It's not necessarily the expected big boys down there. So good pace, and the Williams is quickest across all the speed traps as well. So that rear wing, whilst they're going to have to double check what's going on with it, it's delivering some good top speed. Makes you faster around this place.
yeah, one of the fastest circuits of the entire season. Slightly strange with the walls being so close, but it is really, at certain places, Monza with walls. So good news for Williams, who had a slippery car last year. They've developed it as well. Whilst we were hearing from Sam, Verstappen was reporting on the radio that his headrest is not quite right, and he's not in the optimum seating position with the car. So even though he's 0.6 of a second ahead of the rest of the field, there are still changes to be made down at Red Bull.
That's an odd one, isn't it? Normally, any sort of headrest, seating position dramas, you'll be dialing out pre-season, first race, or at least FP1. And I wonder if something's just slipped then, or has come loose on his headrest. Okay, he pitched straight back into the pits, was only on the medium tyre again.
So this is the fluttering that Sam was talking us through, that we saw initially trackside, and that illustrates it perfectly.
We've seen a lot of that from the Red Bull in the last couple of years. You get a lot of weight-saving procedures has gone on, but just really thinning out the carbon in places as well, causing structural issues. Williams will be keeping Albon in the garage just a little bit longer to make sure they get on top of that. Just as he was opening the DRS, just flapping around the upper part.
So Verstappen very comfortable on the laps that he's delivered so far. He is 0.4 of a second ahead of his teammate. He is 0.6 of a second ahead of his closest challenger outside of his team, which remains Fernando Alonso. Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon have taken Alpine back into the game after a torrid time where Gasly was the last car on the grid in Bahrain and Ocon put on a bit of a sitcom on the Sunday. Alpine have completely changed around.
And they still reckon they can medal with some Mercedes pace. They still reckon they can do that. And everything I saw in Bahrain said they couldn't. The car looked stiff. It didn't look like it had any level of compliance. The drivers were fighting it quite a lot. Yeah, Ocon made it into Q3. He did okay, but he wasn't on a par with a Mercedes. This track is very different. It's, first of all, smooth. And that will give Alpine a decent chance.
Alonso building up for a push lap, but 1 and 2 on the timing page at the moment. Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez of Red Bull. And Sam Collins has wandered down to the very same team.
So happy to build up more temperature on tyres and have a good break into the final corner. And we'll be go one.
The car, the mechanics took the headrest off, took it out to the back of the garage, and they brought out another one, clicked it straight in, and no problem. Sergio Perez taking his car out on track now, everybody's getting in his way. There goes that Red Bull. Now, something to keep an eye on is look how tight it is for the car. So you didn't get to see that, but for these Red Bulls coming out onto track is extremely difficult. The boys upstairs have talked about it, but I was trying to work out why Red Bull is struggling with this. But actually the pit lane at this section is a little bit narrower, just between the front of the garage where that red line is, and out here to the white line. It's narrower at this end of the pit lane than it is down at, say, the Williams end. And that's why the cars, like Max Verstappen, are having such a hard time making that sweep out. And if we stay for a moment, I think we're going to see Verstappen have that. Well, I know Fernando Alonso is on a good lap, so when Max is coming out, we'll maybe take a look at that. But for now, back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Sam. That's a very good point as Alonso goes deep into turn 22. And he is on a rapid lap, but it won't count because he'll get pinged for track limits the moment he goes over the line. And once again, the 22nd turn on this 27-turn circuit is causing trouble for many out there.
He lost lap time with it as well. He might still improve, Fernando, still pushing his way through turn 27, the final corner, and he does improve, goes second, still behind Max Verstappen. But he did lose a chunk of time by missing that apex at turn 22.
Great wall cam to show you the speed. He was trying to scrub off, wasn't able to.
Just a fraction wide on the turn-in and then straightened up and cut. It was actually the 23 apex that he ended up cutting. Shame for Alonso, who was looking pretty on it on that lap. Looking very hooked up.
Okay, let's go back to Sam.
Yeah, Alex, I just want you to take a look at this on Max Verstappen's Red Bull. He's about to leave the garage, and you'll see the car. The mechanic's waiting, holding his hand out at the moment, just keeping an eye, listening to what the team are telling him about coming out, and then he'll give a little way forwards. But it's like maneuvering your car out of a really tight parking space if you've got a long wheelbase car. Now watch this. He has to be so careful as he gets going because he's nearly in the wall by the Ferrari pit wall. And both drivers, actually a bit harder for Sergio Perez, and that was a very close release there with somebody else in front of Verstappen. And yeah, every time it was Ocon or Gasly. I think Gasly just got in the way of Verstappen, so that's not what he wanted to see. But just they're coming so close to that concrete wall, and if they brush that concrete wall, it's very harsh edge. You can see the rough surface. That would cause damage to those wheel covers or some parts of the car. Could even cause a puncture. So they have to be careful. So as the traffic builds up on track, and it feels like pulling out of a tight car park here, back to you guys upstairs.
Thank you, Sam, for illustrating the teams at the sharp end of the Constructors' Championship from last year have to deal with. It's far tighter for Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes than everyone else. And Ferrari will hope that they've got something to cheer after these laps on maybe a softer compounded tyre, because at the moment the timing page is one of woe for the Scuderia.
Perez is on a lap on the softs as well. We're not actually watching it, but he's come out of the final corner and he's going to run to the line. He's going quickly. Was slower than Alonso through the first two sectors, but he didn't make a mistake in turn 22, so he's gone to the top of the times. Only just quicker than Fernando, though, and there's definitely more in there for the Aston Martin.
So close between Perez and Alonso, and Verstappen's on his outlap on the soft tyre as well, so we're going to read what he can do with the softest rubber available. Now, Sainz and Ferrari is going to be, you would expect, the lead Ferrari on the grid, given us a 10-place penalty for Charles Leclerc coming his way for taking beyond his allocation of the control electronics. He gets 2 for the season, he's gone over that already, so it's a 10-place grid penalty as a result. And Sainz in sector 1 as he approaches the 13th turn on the 27 that are ahead of him. He is way off in the first sector alone.
Yeah, terrible first sector pace for Sainz. Leclerc's backed off in the other Ferrari on his set of softs. Sainz didn't look like there was anything particularly wrong with it, but he's just not unlocked any pace on the soft tyres so far. Still, his best lap in the session was a decent opening gambit on the set of mediums. Other drivers are out there improving. George Russell through 2 sectors is looking like he's going to make a step in the Mercedes. Sainz finding a little bit now through the middle sector.
So Sainz hoping that this continues. If it does continue the improvement, maybe they'll look at how they bring the tyres into the temperature window. So he's a long way off what he wanted in that first part of the lap. We've got a yellow flag in the second sector, but the Ferrari is about to cut the beam and improve, and he's still a second of Perez's pace at a track where Ferrari expected to be a lot closer to Red Bull.
It's quite a long yellow flag at turn 16.
Cancel handbrake and B-bow 6.
Yeah, if I wasn't ready to turn 1.
Smaller and smaller.
I was just wondering who was coming up behind him as well when you suddenly see a car hitting the brakes that hard on one of the blind curves. It was a bit tight, and that was the Williams. That was a few moments ago as Sam was talking in the pit lane. That was the traffic that was on circuit, so we still don't know what the yellow flag was for whatever went on at turn 16, but it is clear. We're back under full green flag conditions. And Sainz improved, but still 1 second down. Leclerc 1 second down. Leclerc hasn't improved on the soft tyre.
There will be concern at Ferrari at this pace so far, but we'll wait to see what Charles Leclerc can do. Driver that suits this track nicely. They're all parked up in the final sector.
Yeah, Leclerc's on a lap now.
And mode push.
Sector, and he's improving through the middle. So we'll keep an eye on Leclerc this time around. Sainz had a really poor first sector, which cost him 3 tenths. See if he's got anything left to go again. So far, the deck looks pretty low on this smooth circuit. Stroll sliding his way through the first corner. A little bit twitchy on the exit of 2 as well. And Leclerc's improved the middle sector. So this will be a representative time then from the Ferrari. What was the quicker Ferrari all the way through Bahrain? Leclerc loves this place as well. We'll have a 10-place grid penalty. Jumps to 4, half a second away. better, but still decent chunk away in the Ferrari.
Stroll, a 10th back on Perez's benchmark, and with cars to clear on build laps or cool laps in between. And it means that he's having to pick his way through past the McLaren. Hulkenberg has gone faster than Leclerc seconds later, and not just a little bit, by a hefty margin. And that tells its story at the moment. Haas ahead of Ferrari, 4th and 5th.
Hulkenberg has come back with a vengeance so far for one lap pace. He's again serving it to K-Mag. The two Haas drivers completing laps at the same time, and there's a 6/10 gap between the two of them. Magnussen 10th, Hulkenberg up to 4th with a stunning lap in the Haas. Gasly improves in the Alpine. They're still looking pretty decent, within 4/10 of the pace of Perez. Here comes Stroll into the final corner. The lap has looked neat enough. It was a little bit slidey through the first sector. Maybe missing some tyre temp for turn 1.
Stroll across the line. Stroll to 7th place, behind the Ferrari, behind the Alpine, behind the Haas, and behind his teammate, as Stroll continues his obviously hampered start to Formula 1 in 2023 with those 2 broken wrists, a broken toe, but with a big points finish from Bahrain. Has to go again at a circuit where there is hardly any margin for error. This is at the Williams of Alex Albon, going up through the gears, and let's see what he can put on the board. Can't improve.
I lost it, Tito.
Okay. We can do a push abort. You go cool. Quite improved. Still in the top 10. De Vries comes through 13th in the AlphaTauri. And there goes Ocon then in the pink Alpine. Had a lovely slipstream from Sergio Perez across the line. And goes up to 7th. Gasly's time's looking pretty good though, isn't it? Quarter of a second up.
Yeah, strong lap from Gasly. Hulkenberg's 1 lap pace.
Amazing.
It's
amazing.
Ridiculously good. He's 2.5 tenths of a second away from Perez. We've yet to see Verstappen at the limit, and we're going to change that now. We're going to show it to you. He's about to ride the roller coaster through the camber, turn 13, and head back for home.
12 degrees of camber through turn 13. You really feel it when you're driving around as well. Car just glued to the apex as you hook it up. You carry so much speed, and Verstappen precise at the moment. Getting close to the wall, but he's not fighting too hard at the wheel to keep it there. Into turn 22. Arcing through. This is where so many drivers have run wide. Verstappen there is neat with his placement once again. Able to run a bit of exit curve, not have to wait for the throttle. Not a best of anyone in the middle sector.
Interesting first sector from Charles Leclerc, not too far away from Perez's effort. So that's why we're showing you Leclerc on the left and Verstappen's fastest time of the session. Nothing can go wrong for him at this point. He's going to go over the line. He's going to go fastest by just shy of 0.3 of a second. Now, can Leclerc maintain the pace in the Ferrari and get close to the pace of Perez? He'll be aiming for P2, looking at his sector time so far.
Not going to get there, I don't think, unless he can produce sort of magic in the final corner. The final sector is very short, 22 and 27, basically the 2 corners you've got to worry about. There he goes, stamping on the brakes, getting close enough to an apex, and then running towards the wall on the exit. Remember, Alonso's lap was done going off the track at turn 22. Leclerc finds...
Yeah, up, man.
The other Ferrari driver is trying to improve. We're going to pick him up in towards 22. Had a decent turn in, managed to get right up to that wall on the apex that Tsunoda nudged earlier on. It's a better lap this one for Carlos Sainz. Alonso still has the best middle sector of anyone as well. That Aston Martin, it's quick again here.
Sainz goes over the painted curve, goes over the second painted curve, the exit at 27. He avoids the pit in line. He crosses the start-finish line, and Gasly goes past Hulkenberg, and it's Gasly in 4th. He's half a second away from the overall pace. Red Bull are clear of the field once again. Stroll is going for another attempt. His teammate is in 3rd position. We're on board with the Canadian driver, trying to make 22 and 23, and doing so.
It's quite fun, these tyres are lasting. Driver's able to get more than just one flyer out of a set of softs.
That was the balance. A bit on the nose in the first part of the lap.
More like a word through corner balance. 22 was worse. And sector 1, like the first 2 corners, the front is really bad.
Yeah, copy that.
7/10 of a second off the pace. Ocon's just demoted him to 8th. Ferrari do not have a sweet spot with the setup, and they will be concerned. It looks bleak after FP1, and if you consider that they expect it to be closer to Red Bull, it does not look good after FP2. George Russell, Grand Prix winner, back in the light blue livery of crash helmet that he won his Brazilian Grand Prix, maiden Grand Prix in Sao Paulo 4. He's on the soft tyre. He's in a car that Mercedes hoped was going to be a step forward, a return to form. It's been anything but, and we look at the overall picture as he goes up to 4th. He goes past Stroll, who beat him in Bahrain, but Russell goes within half a second. That is not what Mercedes want to see, but the picture for Mercedes is better than the picture for Ferrari at the moment, who are completing the top 10. Then you get to Sir Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris, who was last earlier on, finds himself just over a second away from the benchmark pace. More push laps going on, and the smooth surface is meaning that you get more entertainment on your Friday night.
It's nice.
Enjoyed it.
This is our Friday night should be. Formula One cars at full tilt on the fastest street circuit in the world, and they're able to have a couple of stabs at a fast lap as well. Hamilton a little bit front end looked a little bit twitchy there coming through 22. He's not improved in the middle sector. So whilst Russell's up into the top 4, Hamilton is not about to join him. 1 corner to go for Lewis. Arcs through 25 and 26. Hits the brakes. Takes it very late apex, means he can get the car straight on the exit, deliver full throttle a little bit sooner. And here he runs to the line. Is he going to be able to make an improvement?
Always a debate going on 12 out of 22.
Okay, well look.
I was going to say,
Guys, what do you think about Ferrari? It's kind of worrying.
on pure pace.
If they don't get better in this FP, I'm kind of worried for them.
2009 British Grand Prix.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
So there have been crashes, there have been penalties, there have been reliability, but on pure merit, no mitigating circumstances here last year, the first.
I'm tempted to box and get onto high fuel if you are.
Yes. Box first.
Copy that.
On slow lap is not what you want around this place. George Russell, not very happy then.
Yeah, George Russell summing up in one word, not a word that Ofcom allows us to bring you wherever in the world you may be.
We need to make some big changes.
Yeah, copy.
Quarter of a second up on Ocon. Ocon improving now. This is what an enjoyable Friday. They're still going on their soft tyres.
It's excellent. Wendell, let's hear team ready.
We need to make some big changes.
Yeah, copy.
Well, that's been true across the board for Mercedes. I assume he's referring to the setup, but you can hear the...
Not team personnel at this stage.
Your words.
Attempt, would you like to try again? Yuki found a couple of tenths in the last attempt, but happy to box. The tires looks a bit damaged now.
Yeah, coming box.
Finding himself no improvement. Time, unlike this man, Esteban Ocon, who continues the never-ending story of the pendulum swinging one way or the other at Alpine. That's going to go over and over and over again. That's the man you just heard from, asking for changes. Half a second away, and it is Verstappen, Alonso, Perez, Ocon, Russell, the top 5, but an unhappy Russell that we've heard on the radio. Gasly not separated by much, 0.06 of a second. Stroll doing well to be running. Still in arrears to his teammate though, and Hamilton at a circuit where he was knocked out in Q1 last year finds himself in 11th at the moment. On the other side of the coin, this is the last track that Lewis Hamilton won at and took pole position as well. 103, his tally in both columns in his Formula 1 career.
And what a win it was.
was an
drama.
epic Sunday.
Oh.
I've never quite seen a Grand Prix like that. It was basically a race in 4 parts. We had crashes, we had drama with race control, we had Esteban Ocon randomly sent to the front of the field for a restart. It had everything, that Grand Prix, and they left this circuit after the first ever Saudi Arabian Grand Prix level on points. And we know what happened after that incredible Sunday of drama. And then last year wasn't bad either, was it?
Both races here have been thrilling. The first one with the championship on the line for Verstappen and Hamilton, the amount of drama, the long red flagged race that we had was just something else. And then the fight between Verstappen and Leclerc last year, another brilliant, hard fought race win for Verstappen last time, for Hamilton before. If we have a Grand Prix on Sunday that is anywhere near a par of those, then we're in for a treat. So far, this circuit has not failed to deliver.
I hope that's the same for the 3rd Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen in control of things at the moment, been very calm and precise behind the wheel, in a little bit of contrast to his qualifying lap from 2021, where he threw everything he had at a lap, which was 26 corners of real drama, thrilling driving, and then a mistake at the final.
It was 3/10 up the road, wasn't it? And then went in too deep for the final corner, still trying to scrabble around, out the wall. Didn't really change the outcome of the race. The rest of the race changed the outcome all on its own. With Mick Schumacher's big crash actually shuffled the order.
Yeah, that was the key moment. That was Mercedes in control until that moment. Then Schumacher going deep.
It was a Latifi crash that shuffled the order last year. That's the thing.
That cost Perez with the timing of the Latifi crash.
Our pole man last year led the early part of the race. Latifi hits the wall. Safety car at the wrong time. And it can completely shuffle the order. We've seen it both years here. That's the thing with street circuits, particularly fast street circuits, where there's jeopardy either side with the barriers being so close. There's very little margin for error. All you need is someone further back to make a mistake at some point in 50 laps. You get a safety car call, then how on your toes are your strategists, your mechanics? It's where teamwork makes the dream work. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. Being a part of the team, that's where suddenly you might think you're set for maybe a race win, maybe a podium, maybe a top 10. And in those fine instances, you have seconds to make the right call.
2 red flags and 4 virtual safety cars in 2021. 1 safety car and 2 virtual safety cars in 2022. So you've got to be adaptable, you've got to react. Jodian was telling you, whole team effort to take the flag here. Logan Sargent about to push on, currently in 18th place. Not really a classic Sargent circuit in Formula 2. He's making his Formula 1 vow here this weekend. But in Formula 2, 5 races, no points, and 2 retirements. So he'll be hoping that it was a better fare in Formula 1 than it has been for him in Formula 2.
5 races, no points.
5 races, no points.
He was impressive last time out. I might have mentioned it, that I was impressed by Logan Sargent. A few people were ribbing me afterwards that I wouldn't stop eulogising about Sargent as being, he was my top rookie. He was the top rookie as well last time out. In fairness, Piastri and De Vries both had weekends to forget. Probably wasn't hard to top their accomplishments last time out. But Sargent was very, very close to Albon throughout the whole weekend. This track is so different. It is a much bigger step into the unknown, especially when there's pre-season testing in Bahrain. Yeah. You do a day and a half in the car, you've got to be hooked up by the time you get around to qualifying, because you just have so much track time. You will not have a better setup in many ways to get your head into gear for your brake points, your car tuning devices around the lap as well. The car might be newer to you at the start of the season, but that particular lap, those 15 corners, should be your friend at that point. Then you turn up here, there's 27 corners, there's walls greeting you if you make a mistake in many of them, and it's a bit of a different ask.
How many laps 5. Alright, I really like the medium in the previous track. Okay, understood. Can target 4 time laps, and there will be 6 time laps on medium. There will be 6 time laps on medium.
Okay, that's Carlos Sainz there on the radio talking about the run plan with his engineer. That's Ricardo Adam, his engineer, the other voice you heard on the radio. Very, very tight once again for the entire field. Bottas finding himself at the back. His run all about tyre management rather than outright pace in Bahrain, but really, really did very well to keep a charging Gasly behind. And Bottas's fastest lap was in the bottom 3, so his overall personal fastest lap in the Grand Prix in the bottom 3 overall in the field.
Because everyone behind him.
Chris, the top left button behind the steering wheel wasn't working.
There's Sainz still at 3 behind. We're going to box for a live pit stop.
It was enough to keep Pierre Gasly at bay, and it was by just about a second. One more flyer and he might have been beaten, but it was a great drive from Valtteri. Currently propping up the times, 1.4 seconds down on Verstappen. The field's so close.
Okay, ridiculously close once again.
Lovely to see.
It's going to make Q1 and Q2 fascinating to see, because it just any operational error, any lockup, any moment, you're heading out. And that's something that Lando Norris just avoided as you hear the car scraping over the bumps into 22 and 23.
And you know what it means as well? If a team brings an upgrade and they find a couple of tenths of a second, they're going to look like heroes suddenly from one race to the next because the whole field is so close. If you take Bottas and you give him a couple of tenths, suddenly he's gone from 20th to being sort of 12th or 13th now. And that's a points challenge for a Sunday compared to tooling around at the back. So a couple of tenths for everyone other than a Red Bull who's been making a huge difference right now. The fight that Alonso had between the Aston Martins, Ferraris and the Mercedes was very close. Again, a couple of tenths either way there, and you've got a very different outcome.
15 minutes ago, long runs in progress at the moment. So let's go downstairs to Sam Collins.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'm just loitering down here.
What happened?
I will come back to you.
Yeah, let me know if I can go on power or...
I will come back to you. For us, everything is fine. You can continue.
Well, then there was a problem with the clutch pedal, but okay.
It's fine. You can continue.
Well, then there was a problem with the clutch pedal, but okay.
Well, that sounds like there may be issues for Charles Leclerc. He's feeling in that cockpit, and that's what's about to come to, because Mercedes are not just unhappy about the performance of the W14 chassis. I mean, Toto Wolff coming off his kitchen island in the garage is pretty rare anyway when he's not smashing up headphones. He's a little bit unhappy, but he's actually going out to the pit wall to watch the other cars out. Is really, really unusual to see. So he's just having a good look at every car going down the straight. I'm not sure what he's learning from that, but he's keeping an eye on something. I might try and grab a word with him if he comes off the pit wall, but at the moment he looks fairly ensconced there. Mercedes may also have a slight reliability worry with the power unit. We saw George...
Verstappen's second lap was a 35.1 and now 35.0 for him. Perez 35.5 second lap.
Take quite a few parts, and the power unit in the back of that McLaren is identical to the power unit used by the Works team. So slight wobbles. This is very early for any power unit components to be changed. Ferrari have struggled with this. I'm going to see if I can grab Toto. Toto, looking out on the pit wall, that's a bit unusual for you. Normally on your kitchen island in the middle.
Yeah, staring at screens. This time I stare at the cars.
Now, not gone so well this session. We're still missing a bit of pace on the Mercedes. What more's going to happen?
Yeah, it's just interesting. We had a good lap with George, but still too far away from Verstappen. So let's see where that ends up.
Thanks, Toto.
Good work, Sam Collins. Doorstepping Toto. Well, that's what you get if you abandon the kitchen island.
Oh, he went quiet about the old smashing the headphones, though, didn't he, when Toto came over?
Probably for the best. Probably for the best.
It happened once.
Yeah, it happened.
And it won't be forgotten in a hurry.
No.
Tire seems good. we will extend a bit this run, and we will suggest.
What is the medium doing?
Charles is 35.2.
Accurately, George Russell finding a lap, but Hamilton complaining that he's got no rear end there, and that lack of confidence is a throwback to last year, something that he was mentioning time and time again at this time last year.
Last year, they went a wrong direction in setup, and he just never found rear end through the...
So Verstappen's fourth lap was a 35.2, Perez 35.3, Leclerc on medium 35.5.
Away from his teammate. It's going to be quite a different debrief, I think, for the two drivers. Russell, he's within half a second of Verstappen. He's within a couple of tenths of Perez. And that's an okay position for Mercedes to work from a Friday. Hamilton on the other side just didn't look hooked up, and the rear end did look pretty twitchy when we saw it. Outside of the top 10, a little bit more head scratching for Lewis to find some balance and pace in that Mercedes. There's some fantastic drives in the low fuel running that we saw. I mean, Alpine finding a huge amount of pace. It doesn't surprise me too much that the way the car looked so stiff and skateboard-like, it was described as in Bahrain, where it just looked so stiff and rigid and was hopping about the place, the Alpine. Here it's so smooth, and they're able to get the downforce working, a stable aero platform. They've clearly got something there. Both cars in the top 6. Looks very sensible. Hulkenberg's lap is stunning. Again, every time he's been in that car on low fuel, he has been raising eyebrows, Nico, and he's done it again. Decent chunk ahead of Magnussen.
Okay, Mac, looking for a little bit of form. Second half of the season, only 1 point scoring finish. That was an audacious medium tyre strategy going against the rest of the field in Austin at his home race. So Magnussen trying to find some form at the moment, and over one lap you can see the gap on the left-hand side. He's on board with Nick de Vries. AlphaTauri in a little bit of flux at the moment. Franz Tost having to come out and deny rumours that the team was going to be sold. Gasly hopping the curbs at the corner where Mick Schumacher found himself in the wall last year. Tech Pro, you can see that's been added there. Plenty of plank is being left on that curb through 10. Further through the lap, this is Oscar Piastri, daring himself to get as tight as possible to the curb, and then riding a little bit of a curb on the way out. Won the F2 feature race here in 2021. A run of 4 consecutive feature race wins on his way to the championship.
My chances are really, really bad.
Stand by.
Oscar, how's the front wing?
Not enough, I think. We're gonna need a couple more turns.
Oscar, do you think the hard will have a tougher front tyre and this will be okay?
Not 100% sure, to be honest. Last time the balance was very similar. By boxing.
Negative, stay out.
Issue for Verstappen.
We're similar to Albon. Our biggest loss to Ocon, who's doing 35s, is turn 1 braking point. So just see if you can find something there. We have Stroll behind, he's on 10 kilos less fuel.
The Aston Martin flattered themselves a little bit through practice in Bahrain. Maybe they're doing the same here. But right now, it's Alonso that is the closest challenger to Verstappen. With AlphaTauri, Franz Tost was pretty harsh on his team and his engineers.
We have started to get a little bit degradation. Instability traction.
The team said they would be better than they are, and they're not. I don't really believe what's going on. It effectively was the words of Franz Tost. The car looks, it's not miles away. And you've got to remember for AlphaTauri, they've lost their lead driver. And losing Pierre Gasly, race-winning driver, podium-finishing driver for that team, there could be a couple of tenths easily in losing a driver. And when the whole field is getting closer on lap time, you take a couple of tenths away from Sonoda, and he's ahead of Sainz right now, and in the top 10. And if that's the difference of driver, then it can make the whole team look like it's got different pace. I mean, look at Magnussen and Hulkenberg right now. If, let's say, for whatever reason, Magnussen's driving at a similar pace compared to last year, and Schumacher would be a similar pace. Magnussen, in fact, was a little bit quicker on average, but let's say Schumacher's there and they're sort of 14th, 15th. You'd say that's where Haas should be.
Keep an eye on vibration.
Copy that.
The back.
That pace in that car that Magnussen so far, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to unlock. And it just opens your eyes as to, actually, that Haas car is rapid over one lap. Whereas if you had different drivers in there, you maybe wouldn't see the full exploitation of that.
Yeah, fair point. And just comparison-wise, I had to go forward to, there's a problem for one of the Haas cars in FP2. Magnussen didn't get much running here in FP2 last.
Most of the field doing very similar lap times, Max, with this time management. Keep it there for now.
And to Magnussen, give or take a couple of tenths. But Hulkenberg has just been so hooked up since he's jumped in that car on one lap pace at least. And Nico and
We're about 7 minutes away from the end of FP2. We got Verstappen, Alonso, and Perez in that order as the first three. Let's see what happens. I think those three are not going to move from there. Maybe Alonso will go faster than Perez this time. What worries me is we got Leclerc and Sainz in 9th and 10th. I was really hoping for Ferrari to be better in FP2. You know, conditions are closer to race conditions, but this is not looking great. We'll see. We'll see. I know. Let me know what you guys think. Well, let's chat around here. Final 6 minutes and 20 seconds. And if you haven't subscribed, do it. Subscribe, like this thing so it can get promoted to more people. And let's see. Let's see what happens. I'll be back in just a little bit.
The front went and the rear didn't. And there we had a huge snap there from Charles. Well caught, but he had to use the runoff area to get through. De Vries into turn 1. Looks okay. Just very close with Mercedes. Hamilton coming out of the pits. And De Vries just trying to get on the throttle, just nudging him into an understeer towards the Mercedes, but it was all okay. There's traffic, there's 20 cars are out there, and they've all had clean sessions again.
Okay, let's take it a video. Please. It's 4 laps. Minimum 4th lap. Let's do point 3 down total. With 2.2. Pit confirm and box. Just lap time 3.6, 35.6.
Many noticed. Great to have your company wherever you are. 5 minutes to go. Gazzy's had a good day. Oh, it's a better day than he had in Bahrain 2 weeks ago. Shrugged it off nicely. Bit of flow visit at the back of that Alpine as well. Car in the pink livery for the first 3 Grand Prix of the year, then reverting to French racing balloon.
Both liveries are nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
I do like the pink. Stands out particularly under the lights. Really is...
The sponsor pays enough to have the full livery for 3 races, but not 23 races. So.
Okay, so it's most likely 3 laps from here, 3 full-time laps from here. It's very close to a 4th, but I think most likely it's 3.
You tell me and I come back off a little bit.
APH and then backing off. Under braking. Hit the DRS. Take it to the line once again. Lap times being set at the moment. Gasly last time around, 1:35.1.
Is everything okay, engine wise? We'll come back to you.
So when Sam was doorstepping Toto Wolff earlier on, Charles Leclerc was talking about, well, didn't have a good feel on his practice start and was checking if everything was all right on the team radio. Still checking a few minutes later.
He had a huge amount of wheel spin, and he was in the practice start from the end of the pit lane, And I think it may have been just that there was no rubber down in that area. And the last time it's on a practice start, I think would have been from the grid, end of FP1. So doing one from offline there, you drop the clutch to the same point, and the whole car just judders as it goes away because the rear tyres haven't got the grip. It may well have just been as simple as that, because it did sound like it was a pretty slip-limited start from Leclerc. Maybe he felt something else from the cockpit.
On data, we can't see anything. Can you be a bit more specific? What happened or where?
Tires and sliding are all fine, so it's okay to push more in high speed if you can.
Deployed evenly across the lap. The extra top up of power from the battery.
One of the Grand Prix that Hulkenberg stood in for Aston Martin last year. He took 12th place around this circuit last year, standing in for Sebastian Vettel. So it is a circuit that he has experienced this iteration of Formula One regulation. There's a lot of low for the curve in comparison in the background. Ticking into the final 2 minutes of the rally today.
I'll tell you something else then in the final 2 minutes that I'm really enjoying about this season so far. Who's at the back?
Yeah, I can't ever remember it being like this at the back. There was always an obvious slowest team.
Yeah, Williams or Haas. For a long time, there's been a team at the back. It could be Manor from back in the day. Yeah. But
when Fernando Alonso made his debut, it was Minardi, the team he was with at the time. There was always a nailed-on slowest car.
And now, the bottom 4 cars, an AlphaTauri, a Williams, a McLaren, and an Alfa Romeo. Today, Alfa Romeo are the slowest. Now, they were nowhere near the slowest last time out. But, you know, we've got Valtteri Bottas propping up the times.
20 pole positions in Formula One.
And that just shows the depth that we've got this season. Maybe Red Bull.
See if we can pick up pace sector 1. Tires look okay.
I can't. I'm maxed out.
The back to the midfield has been such a good thing for this year.
Pace sector 1. Tires look okay.
I can't. I'm maxed out.
Up to the pace in sector 1, the tyres look okay. No, I'm trying, basically, from Albon.
I have no more road to use.
Oh, it's a bit offensive, isn't it? To say, okay, up the pace now.
That shows you the faith the team have in him.
Yeah.
After the start of the year.
They're coming to the end of the long runs now, and that's just the engineer just saying, use everything you've got. Let's just see what we've got left in this tyre. There's no point trying to drive with a bit of tyre management anymore. But Albon basically saying, I ain't managing them anyway.
Well, it's been a tough day for Ferrari. Expected to be close to Red Bull, getting a torrid.
Okay, now if you back off by 2 seconds on your delta, go down, slow down by 2 seconds, and you'll take the flag this time. Just watch Hulkenberg, he's 2.4 behind you.
Leclerc is 0.7 of a second away, and he has that 10-place grid penalty to come. So Sainz very nearly a second at a circuit where he was on the podium here last year. Max Verstappen 2/10 ahead of Alonso. Alonso had the fastest middle.
And it's basically over right now.
Fastest final sector.
Verstappen 129.603, Alonso 129.811, and Perez 129.902. Those would be the top 3. It's very, very bad for Ferrari, bad for a Hamilton, Mercedes. I don't know. This was supposed to be better indicative of what we could see on race day. But we'll just have to see in qualifying tomorrow and see what's up. But I'm going to let you know, tomorrow we will be transmitting FP3, of course, and the qualifying and the race on Sunday as well. Just go ahead and click that like. That way this can go out to more people. So click the like. It shows YouTube that people are liking this transmission. And subscribe if you haven't. I'm going to leave it going on until they stop talking. So you want to hang out and listen to them, we'll see what's up. But thank you so much for being here today. And
The field is the same as
guys, I will
Bahrain,
see you tomorrow.
but I'll give Alpine some credit. They look like they're much more competitive. Can they even get towards that Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin fight? Can they even get that far? Maybe not with Alonso, but maybe with Stroll. They've had a really good day. And conversely, Ferrari have had a really poor day. And they were a little bit steady through the Friday practices in Bahrain. But they were 3/10 away from Red Bull. Yeah, not 7/10 away. Maybe they're running in a very conservative mode. You know, they've got some fragilities on the engine. Maybe they're running it very, very turned down. But this does look like it's been a trick.
Tell me a bit, how did that long run look?
We're just on a little bit slower than, say, Williams and like Alpine. So we just need to find a little bit of pace, and it's maybe in the high speed where we can gain a bit. So we're, yeah, in the pack, but slightly on the slower side. Deg was fine.
Having to back out as a result, another closing gap. Perez the car in front.
That was tight. Perez was turning in as well. And then finally in the last minute, sort of flash of red in the mirrors.
You saw fully, the great thing about the onboard camera, you saw fully committed, eyes out the front, but then that reaction.
That was the eyes of a Formula One driver in his own world. Until suddenly he wasn't, and there was some Ferrari on his inside.
Fine to do in practice, different story if you do it in qualifying. Practice starts being completed. A lot of homework to do at Maranello for Ferrari. George Russell, half a second away on his push lap on the soft tyres, but saying we've got to make big changes. That's to the setup, that's to what's available to the team this weekend. Let's confirm the order then. Day one result, I like that graphic. It's Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez. The top three from earlier slightly rejigged. The top three from Bahrain slightly rejigged. Fernando Alonso, the closest challenger, 0.2 of a second away. Esteban Ocon showing the Alpine is working much better in terms of overall pace around this circuit than Bahrain. George Russell, 5th but unhappy. Gasly looks strong. Ocon looks strong. Stroll in 7th. Hulkenberg just mighty over one lap at the moment. Tough day for Ferrari, 9th and 10th. Second page, Lewis Hamilton in 11th, ahead of Lando Norris, who's ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Alex Albon, great straight line speed, but down there in 14th. Notice no improvement on the soft tyre for the Thai driver. Kevin Magnussen was 15th, then it was Joe.
A reminder to hold position here, VRC still active. We're going to box now, we'll do a practice pit stop as well.
There's going to be some excellent drivers who find themselves P20 across this year. It's hyper competitive. At the back and in the middle, Red Bull still the class of the field, but delivering on Friday is one thing. Delivering on Saturday and Sunday can be quite another. The walls are tight here. It is always a thrilling spectacle when the drivers have to crank it up for the qualifying hour. We're looking forward to that tomorrow. Thanks for your company today. Thanks to Jolien Palmer for his insights, and really enjoyed the challenge of this circuit. We'll send it back downstairs to Rosanna and to Sam.
It's just me, Alex. Down here
Sorry,
in
sir.
the paddock. No problem. Down here in the paddock. I thought I'd start down at Red Bull. There's quite a lot of stuff to talk about up and down the pit lane. Red Bull, for example. Well, we know the car's pretty quick, but Red Bull are not standing still. There's been a lot of talk about Red Bull's aerodynamic test restriction as a result of that budget cap issue, and also of winning the World Championship last year. And that means they've got less wind tunnel time by quite a significant margin than any other team.
Should be late.
Copy pit lane. Pit stop practice, do not continue.
With on their RB19s this weekend.